He built cars that looked like they were forged in another dimension, part muscle, part spaceship. Then, one day, he disappeared. Ian Rousell wasn't your average car guy. He didn't chase fame, didn't care for status symbols. But when Full Custom Garage hit screens in 2014, he became something else entirely. A mystery. His wild builds and quiet demeanor made him an icon and a ghost. In a world overflowing with flashy personalities and overproduced car shows, Ian offered something different. Raw craftsmanship, zero drama, just a man, a torch, and an impossible vision. But why did someone so good at what he did, so beloved in the custom car scene, walk away from it all? This isn't just a story about custom cars. It's about obsession, burnout, loyalty, and the cost of staying true to your craft in a world that constantly demands more. It's about how Ian Rousell became a legend and why he may never return the way fans remember. To understand what really happened, we have to rewind. Because long before the cameras rolled, before the MIG welders and midnight deadlines, there was just a kid in a garage. And that's where this story begins. Before Ian Rousell ever touched TV fame, he was just a kid. Born on November 19, 1970. Growing up in the United States with grease under his fingernails and a dream in his head. His earliest memories weren't of cartoons or baseball, but of sparks flying off his dad's welder. His father, a dedicated gearhead, didn't just work on cars, he breathed them. That passion wasn't taught, it was absorbed. From a young age, Ian watched his dad transform junkyard wrecks into working machines. Not restorations, resurrections. It wasn't about bringing cars back to life. It was about bringing something new to life. That mindset stuck. While other kids were hanging out at the mall or glued to Nintendo screens, Ian was in the garage, learning to bend metal to his will. He didn't see cars as status symbols. He saw them as blank canvases. While attending West Valley High School, Ian was already flipping wrecks into running, rolling sculptures. Every dollar he saved went into tools, not toys. Some say he skipped college. Others claim he studied mechanical engineering. Ian's real education came from sweat, broken parts, and trial by fire. He didn't read about custom cars. He built them. By the late 80s, he had already developed his signature style. Bold lines, radical shapes, and no fear of breaking rules. But back then, no one knew his name. He was just another welder trying to make ends meet, bouncing between auto shops, absorbing every skill he could. And yet, even in those early days, there was something different about Ian. He didn't just fix cars, he reimagined them. And then, the word started to spread. By the early 2000s, whispers about Ian Rousell had taken root in the underground custom car world. People didn't just say he was good, they said he could build anything. A chopped 32 Ford? Done. A retro-futuristic dragster with fins like a spaceship? No problem. Word of mouth became his best advertisement. Ian finally opened his own workshop, a small, gritty space in Southern California. It wasn't glamorous, but to Ian, it was a temple. There were no velvet ropes, no merchandise racks, just raw steel, torches, and possibility. Clients started showing up, not for repairs, but for visions. They didn't want restorations, they wanted statements. And Ian delivered. Each build wasn't just a car, it was a sculpture that roared to life. He combined old-school hot rod aesthetics with futuristic ideas. He wasn't afraid to mix materials, fiberglass, wood, carbon fiber, and he wasn't bound by categories. Was it a hot rod, a truck, a spaceship? No one could tell. And that's what made it unforgettable. Ian had no desire to become famous, but when your work speaks loudly enough, someone's going to hear it. And in 2014, that someone was MAVTV. They offered Ian something he never asked for, a TV show. And he said yes, but only on his terms. There would be no fake deadlines, no screaming matches, no hyped-up drama. Just real custom builds, real metal, and real work. And that's how Full Custom Garage was born. But as the show exploded in popularity, something else started to grow. Pressure. When Full Custom Garage first aired in 2014, no one expected what would happen next. Unlike shows built on chaos and conflict, Ian's show was quiet, focused, raw. And that's exactly why it worked. Viewers didn't tune in to watch a crew fall apart. They came to see a mad genius bring impossible machines to life with nothing more than a sketch and a welder. Each episode followed a simple formula. Introduce the build, brainstorm ideas, then execute like hell. But inside that structure was a world of innovation. Ian didn't just customize, he invented. Some episodes featured cars so bizarre they looked like they belonged in another galaxy. But to Ian, there were no rules, just possibilities. He often worked alone, sometimes bringing in a trusted fabricator or specialist, but always staying at the center of the chaos. His shop was like a laboratory of madness. Tools everywhere, wires hanging, half-finished projects lurking in the shadows. And yet, out of the mess came miracles. He introduced audiences to techniques rarely seen on television: CNC machining, metal shaping by hand, frame modification without a jig. These weren't assembly line builds. They were chaotic symphonies of brute force and finesse. But it wasn't just the cars that captivated people. It was Ian himself. The way he thought, how he saw shapes where others saw scraps, the calm confidence in every spark he threw. Still, behind the camera, things weren't always smooth. While Ian refused to let the show devolve into cheap reality TV drama, the industry kept pushing for it. Higher ratings meant more control. More control meant less freedom. And Ian doesn't do well with cages, even ones made of fame. As Full Custom Garage gained momentum, so did the expectations. What started as a passion project, a raw look into a master fabricator's world, was now pulling national numbers. Fans loved the show's simplicity. No hosts, no hype, just Ian and his builds. But behind the scenes, producers began eyeing something else. They wanted more of everything. More episodes, more deadlines, more storylines. Some even pushed for conflict, fake tension, shop rivalries, reality TV tropes. But Ian wasn't interested in putting on a show. He wasn't an actor. He was a builder. His workshop wasn't a stage. It was sacred ground. This tension created a quiet war between Ian's creative freedom and the entertainment machine trying to contain it. He pushed back, rejecting almost every note from the network that tried to steer the format. He refused scripted drama and gimmicks. He didn't want to become the next over-the-top garage personality screaming at interns. But the pressure started creeping in, the kind that doesn't yell, but slowly tightens around your neck. Episode counts increased. Build time decreased. The creative margin shrank. Ian, who once worked for the thrill of experimentation, now found himself against the clock, project after project. That wasn't the deal. By late 2019, the cracks were starting to show. There were gaps between episodes. New builds took longer. Ian's usual enthusiasm seemed quieter. And fans noticed. Message boards lit up with speculation. Some thought he was sick. Others whispered burnout. Some even believed he was being forced off the air. The truth was more complicated. and more personal. Because Ian wasn't just exhausted from the work. He was losing the one thing he valued more than anything: control. For someone like Ian Rousell, losing control isn't a minor inconvenience. It's a creative death sentence. Every build he touched was his vision from start to finish. So when the balance tipped, when producers began hovering too closely, trying to polish the raw edges, something in Ian began to pull back. He didn't make a public statement. He didn't rant on social media or stage a dramatic exit. He just started disappearing. Between 2020 and 2021, episodes became sporadic. Social media posts slowed to a trickle. Interviews stopped altogether. Some fans thought the show had quietly been canceled. Others assumed Ian had retired altogether. But that couldn't be further from the truth. In reality, Ian was building again, but this time on his own terms, away from the cameras, away from the pressure. Word spread among tight-knit car circles that he was working on something big, possibly his own off-grid compound in the Mojave Desert. A place with no studio clocks, no deadlines, no sponsors breathing down his neck. There, surrounded by nothing but dirt, wind, and sky, Ian was free again. Sources close to him claimed he was experimenting with all new builds: electric drivetrains, solar conversions, and modular design frames that could transform into multiple vehicle types. Some whispered about a ghost rod, a fully silent EV hot rod powered by a hidden battery pack and zero emissions. Others mentioned a mobile fabrication lab built into an old step van. But Ian wasn't posting about it. He wasn't advertising. Because for him, creation isn't content, it's sacred. Still, the world he left behind wasn't finished with him. Fans wanted to know, was Ian coming back? Would Full Custom Garage ever return? Or was this the last we'd see of the quiet genius who walked away? As the cameras faded and the mainstream spotlight dimmed, Ian Rousell became something rare in today's world. A mystery. He left behind no grand farewell, no teary goodbyes, just silence, and the occasional cryptic photo on social media, a half-finished chassis, a weld glowing in a dark garage, no captions, no context. And yet, the fan base never let go. Online forums buzzed with speculation. Some believed Ian was secretly filming a new independent series, Off-Grid Garage, they called it. Others believed he was done with television forever, focused solely on personal commissions and concept builds too wild for network TV. What we do know is this: Ian never stopped building. One confirmed project was a custom dune buggy powered entirely by electricity. Lightweight, rugged, with modular panels made from recycled composites. Built not for showrooms, but for survival. Another involved reviving a rusted-out school bus and transforming it into a full-blown mobile fabrication unit, complete with solar panels and onboard CNC machines. These weren't just custom cars. They were moving sculptures, and they weren't for sale. They weren't even for clients. They were for him. Sources say he's also been mentoring a small group of young fabricators, passing down techniques the TV audience never saw: metal shrinking, compound curvature forming, analog drafting with zero digital interference. But the biggest rumor? That Ian is quietly building his final masterpiece. One project so complex, so ambitious, that it's been in motion for years. No sponsors, no media, just him and a machine that no one will understand until they see it. And the world will see it. The only question is when. While Ian Rousell may have stepped away from the spotlight, the shadow he left behind still stretches across the custom car world. You don't have to see his name trending to feel his presence. His fingerprints are all over the next generation of builders. In garages across the country, Young fabricators reference Ian's early builds the way painters study Picasso or sculptors study Rodin. It's not just about the aesthetics, it's about the fearlessness, the way he mixed styles, pushed materials to their limits, and never asked permission to try something insane. He wasn't interested in awards or car show trophies. He didn't chase TV ratings or brand sponsorships. He chased ideas, pure, unfiltered creativity. And that's exactly what today's underground builders are chasing too. You'll find his influence in the stance of a one-off desert racer, in the wild geometry of a hot rod built in someone's backyard, in the silence of a builder who'd rather weld than speak. Ian's legacy isn't tied to any one car or episode, it's a mindset. Even shows that came after Full Custom Garage owe something to Ian. He proved you didn't need a cast of characters or overhyped drama to tell a great story. You just needed one thing, a builder with vision. And perhaps that's why his disappearance matters so much. Because when someone who changes the game suddenly steps off the field, people notice, and they wait. Because if there's one thing Ian's always done, it's come back with something no one saw coming. The show may not air new episodes on a regular schedule anymore, but Full Custom Garage never really ended. It just evolved. In many ways, Ian's withdrawal from the public eye was the most Ian move imaginable. Instead of milking the brand or turning his name into merchandise, he did what few with his level of fame would dare. He walked away. Not because he had nothing left to prove, but because he had already proven everything. Yet despite the silence, his fan base continues to grow. The original episodes still circulate online, finding new audiences. Clips of Ian welding, sketching, and solving impossible design challenges rack up millions of views across platforms. New fans discover him every day and ask the same question: where is he now? Some claim he's preparing for a return, not to cable, but to digital, a self-produced series, free from the constraints of networks or ratings. A direct-to-fan look into the garage that no camera crew ever saw. Raw, stripped down, and brutally honest. Others say he doesn't care if he's ever on screen again, that he's building for the sake of building, that his next project might never even be shown publicly. But whether we see it or not, it's happening. Ian Rousell never stopped. He just stopped showing. And when the next chapter begins, it won't come with an announcement or a promo trailer. It'll come with the unmistakable sound of metal being reshaped into something that didn't exist before. Ian Rousell didn't just build custom cars, he built a custom life. A life on his own terms. A career defined not by fame, but by integrity. In a sea of car show hosts who turned into celebrities, Ian stayed a craftsman. He never let the attention distort the mission. Every time the world tried to fit him into a category, celebrity, influencer, icon, he dodged it like a wrench thrown at a shop wall. And maybe that's why he became something more. To some, he's a legend. To others, a myth. To those who truly know cars, he's a master. But above all else, he's a reminder that you don't have to sell out to stand out. That the most powerful creations aren't the loudest, but the most authentic. And whether Ian Rousell ever returns to television or not doesn't really matter anymore. Because Full Custom Garage was never about television. It was about vision. It was about showing the world what happens when you give someone the freedom to imagine and the tools to make it real. So if you ever find yourself in the desert and you hear the faint hum of a welder late at night, echoing off the rocks, don't be surprised if Ian Rousell is still out there, building the impossible.